Children of the Fog. Something wicked this way comes, and it's me, OldManBronze, coming at you live. No, not live. This is Memorex. Recorded. Absolutely. Are two heads better than one? We're about to find out with my review from top to bottom of The Twins. Alright, welcome to our review of Charlotte and Victor, the twins. Got backstory, not a bad backstory at all, but we're here to cover the perks, the power, the add-ons, and then an overview, kind of where this killer fits or does not fit in this game at this time. So let's just hop into it. We're going to start with perks. First one off the bat is Hoarder. You probably never heard of this perk before until Pinhead came along, and then now you know what it is. But basically, you protect what little you have and are attentive to any disturbance of your stockpiles. Survivors reveal their location when they interact with a chest or when they pick up an item within 32 meters of your location. The trial begins with up to 2 additional chests in the environment, which gives survivors more opportunity to get stuff out of boxes, right? And so what this does, it notifies you when someone opens up a chest and then picks something out of it. In general, this was a pretty, not much to it perk. Like, I mean, obviously people are opening chests all the time, but generally it's never going to be close to you. And so there's not much that you could really make out of this perk. So it was very, very unused and unwanted by most. I mean, really, the only thing that this has come into play has been with Pinhead, as far as letting the killer know when the box is picked up, and then perhaps being able to intercept that person from disabling the box, and then continuing a chain hunt. That's Hoarder in a nutshell. Otherwise, really no reason to use it, no reason to have it. But it happens to work very well on Pinhead right now. So, next, Oppression. Life has been difficult for you, so you'll make it difficult for others. When you damage a generator, up to 3 other random generators also begin regressing. If the affected generators are being repaired, any survivors repairing them receive a difficult skill check. Oppression has a cooldown of 120 seconds. I think at max rank, I think that might be less. It might be 100. But this is one of many attempts. Well, not many, but a handful of attempts to add some variety into gen slowdown perks. Mostly you'll see Pop, you'll see Ruin and Undying. I really love Surge. I think it's great. Oppression is not terrible. It just has a really long cooldown, so it doesn't feel super great. Sometimes this is okay because it's going to kick 3 other gens besides the one you kicked. Depending on how many gens are left on the field, of course. And if someone is on that gen, it's going to give them a hard skill check, which at the time, like when it just pops out of nowhere, a lot of times you will catch somebody and they will miss that skill check, giving themselves away, supplying a little extra aggression. Best case is it's kicking gens that nobody's on, and they're going to start regressing, and no one's going to be on them. And that's kind of a nice little thing. Even though baseline regression is terrible, it is 4 times slower than an actual survivor repairs it at. So, I mean, it's a neat idea. If it's something that you would like to use, I'm not going to say don't, but really there are better perks for gen regression. And then we have the magical and mystical coup de grace. As the end nears, you go in for the kill. Each time a generator is completed, coup de grace grows in power. Gain a token. Consume 1 token to increase the distance of your next lunge attack by 40%. I believe that goes up a little bit with the levels, but really anything that relies on generators to be done is sort of counterintuitive. You don't want generators to be done. Generators are going to get done. You're never really anymore going to have the 4-man 5-gen victories as a killer unless you are playing people who are very new at the game, and then you should really feel bad about doing it. But really no real good use for this perk. I've seen lots of people try to use it with some success, and occasionally it feels good, but I think that it doesn't earn a spot in your 4 perk slots at all whatsoever. Once in a while, like, you wish you had that little bit of an extra but no. Especially now with hit recognition as it is, like, a lot of those times where you're getting those extra long hits are the times where they quite possibly are going to be taken away from you at pallets and windows and things like that. So honestly, not a good perk. I get what they're thinking, but realistically, you can use it 5 times in the entire game. You gain a token each time a generator is done. So really 4 times when it matters and 1 time at the end of the game, unless you're storing them all up for some all-out assault as far as coup de grace is concerned. But really, much better perks to play in basically any situation. Just not worth it. Only one here is Oppression, is a sort of decent regression perk, but not great. And then honestly, if you're a pennant enthusiast, you're probably using Hoarder and Franklin's to get your box out of people's hands and keep your chain hunts going strong. So really, that's the only highlights there. Didn't bring anything great to the table. Now let's talk about the power. Blood Bond. Though forever bound through blood and trauma, the twins have been granted the power to separate from their shared body. Together they hunt as brother and sister, doubling the threat to survivors. Blood Bond. Press and hold the power button to unleash Victor. Swap control between Charlotte and Victor by tapping the ability button. While left on his own, Victor will trigger Killer Instinct, revealing to Charlotte the outlines of survivors who are walking or running near him. Survivors who can hear Victor's shrieks are susceptible. However, Victor can be crushed by survivors while Charlotte is being controlled. If crushed, Victor will regrow on Charlotte after some time has passed. So in a nutshell, you get 2 killers for the price of 1. It's not a terrible idea. This was honestly, like, I really like the idea of the twins. I always have. I've not played them a lot because it's very awkward. And the last few times that I've played, it feels like there's been a bit of an additional cooldown in between switching back and forth between Charlotte and Victor, which sort of makes it feel even more clunky. The idea is that you're able to be in 2 places at once, not necessarily playing 2 places at once, but you are able to be in 2 places at once. So often you will start the game, kind of move Charlotte away from a corner of the map if that's where she started, be maybe somewhere in the middle, and then launch Victor and have him go find the survivors. He's very quick, he gets around fast, and then you want to launch Victor at them. And that's the next part. It's the special attack, Pounce. While controlling Victor, hold the ability button to charge a Pounce and tap the attack button to unleash it. Successfully landing a Pounce deals damage to the survivor. If the survivor was at full health, Victor will latch on, triggering Killer Instinct and revealing the location of all nearby survivors. While latched on, the survivor will be affected with broken, oblivious, and incapacitated status effects. They will be unable to enter lockers or leave through the exit gate. The survivor can crush Victor while he's latched onto them by completing the remove action. If Victor misses his pounce, he is momentarily vulnerable and can be crushed by a survivor. If Victor lands on an obstacle taller than himself, he will be destroyed. And then he'll just respawn back with you. So this part right here is sort of the key to the gameplay. I mean, it's obviously, the twins' power, but this is really the key. If you are good at tracking survivors while they're spinning round and round, and Victor is getting ready to pounce, and you, I don't know, I'm just going to throw numbers out there, but if you are landing 75% of your pounces, you're probably going to do okay. Like, really, not only you're injuring them, but you are distracting them for a little bit. The Killer Instinct, if there are other people there, it's going to tell you. You're going to be able to tell how many Killer Instinct flashes are going off, and plus you get a little heartbeat thing that goes as well. So you can tell if that person is running by other people, if they are with other people. And so that's good stuff. Like, if you park Victor somewhere, like, we'll talk about the many ways that people have used Charlotte and Victor, but if you park him somewhere and someone runs, nearby him, I do not have an exact meter range, but like you'll see that killer instinct notification. So often when you down someone with Victor and you switch over to Charlotte to go run over and pick them up, a lot of times you'll be able to tell if someone else is coming in to pick that person up because of a second killer instinct will pop up. So it's decent information. Being able to run around with Victor has its advantages, and it also has its drawbacks, and we'll touch on all of those as we dive further into the killer. But in a nutshell, they tried to do something different here, and it's not bad. Charlotte and Victor are not a top tier killer combo, but I think they can still be used effectively for you to have fun. I really liked this idea. It wasn't just like, I hit people and then I have a power that maybe slows people down, or I have a power that does whatever. I go invisible or whatever. Like, there's two killers here, and you can use that sometimes to your advantage. Victor, while fragile, he's a fragile little guy, can really put the hurt on teams, especially if they are all injured and you decide you want to get sluggy happy. So it's a neat idea. I wish that they were a little less clunky, but once again, we'll talk about that in kind of the top-down overview of how Charlotte and Victor plays. But right now, we're going to move on to their add-ons and what they do, how they work, and if there's any that are actually interesting. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, and here we are with the add-ons for Charlotte and Victor. We're going to start at Iridescent work down like usual. So we have Iridescent Pendant, a glass-like pendant molded from the fog itself. There's a portrait of Madeleine Deschays upon it, though something about her depiction seems unsettling. If a survivor crushes Victor while he's idle, they suffer from the exposed status for 30 seconds. This is not terrible. Honestly, people love to kick Victor. So this is something that perhaps you could take advantage of, especially if you're leaving Victor out a lot. That sort of is a bit of a different play style, where you're using him to scout, or leaving him in an area around where someone is hooked so you can tell if someone is coming in. But anytime that you can put the exposed status on someone, that's not terrible. The problem is whether or not you can follow up with it or not. And that's sort of the question there. You don't get any other information outside of the fact that they are exposed for 30 seconds. You might be able to take advantage of this, you might not. Otherwise, I guess it's okay. It's not bad. Silencing cloth. Of course, a strip of cloth that a 5-year-old Charlotte would put in her mouth stopped her from screaming when witch hunters were nearby. Charlotte is granted the undetectable status effect for 20 seconds after waking from her idle state. This one is kind of interesting, and honestly, I would probably use this more often if I had a bunch of them. Such is the way with iridescent add-ons. But anytime you can get undetectable, in 20 seconds is not a bad chunk there. So you switch back from Victor to Charlotte, and then you're undetectable, so you can just walk up on somebody and really get close to them and start a chase. Or whatever. I mean, you have no heartbeat, and so you are sneaky deaky for 20 seconds every time, and it doesn't seem that there was any cooldown. I've never seen it when I tried it. I don't think that there is. So if you switch back and forth from Victor to Charlotte, you get the undetectable status. So that means that Victor has to be out and not crushed. And then it means that, whenever, once again, you activate Charlotte, you get 20 seconds of undetectable, which is not bad. And you are switching back and forth between them often, so you're actually going to be able to use this quite a bit if you use it. Decent add-on for sneaking up on people, getting a jump on folks, because when Charlotte is without Victor, she is without her power, right? That's the trick to Charlotte and Victor, is that basically your power is Victor, and Victor, if he's parked somewhere else, you once again come back to, I am angry, one-armed shovel person that I'm gonna, you're just melee. That's all you have. So the real power behind Charlotte is Victor. So, but you are going to switch back and forth fairly regularly, and if you make a point of it, you could be undetectable a good decent amount of time. One of the few luxuries Madeline escaped her past life with. It has a pleasant, disarming scent. Just a drop of perfume is all. Survivors within the radius of the grunt Victor emits when charging pounce suffer from the oblivious status effect. Once again, this is not bad. Anytime that you can make someone, you can be undetectable, or you can make survivors oblivious, that's a little bit of an advantage for you, whether that's allowing you to get closer, or maybe they're not super sure what's going on, or they're working on a gen, and maybe you're going to be able to get up on them and do some damage. This is not bad at all. I like add-ons. I like perks that play with undetectable and oblivious, because it can be a decent bit of an advantage to help start a chase or end one, for that matter. So not a bad add-on. For a stew of forage vegetables mixed with moss and bark to create a false sense of fullness. Moderately increases Victor's speed. These are more of the common ones you're going to see, because a lot of times you're doing your patrolling with Victor. So being able to fly around the map at a much higher speed is good map pressure. And so there's a couple of these like this. Once again, here is our moderately, and then there will be a slightly. I do not believe there is a considerably in this line, but if you stack the moderately and the slightly, Victor goes pretty fast. Sometimes a little too fast, but that's okay. You're covering ground, so decent add-on. Good, very rare. Spinning top. A wooden top shared between the twins, though Victor wanted it for his own. He learned he could get what he wanted if he clung tightly and screamed. Survivors drop any carried item when pounced on by Victor. So basically, the way that Charlotte and Victor work, like, you don't, when you're Victor, you don't get the benefit really of any of the perks. Like, if let's say that you're running Nurse's Calling on Charlotte and Victor, once you're in Victor, you don't get the benefit of that. You don't see that. You also don't see scratch marks, but you do see blood. So if someone is injured, you can follow that blood. So things that also like cause the hemorrhage status, things like that, are going to make that a better trail. But it's not terribly hard to follow as it is. But what this does. Let's say you're running Franklin's on Charlotte. Now, if you hit them with Victor, it would not apply. But now, if you use this add-on on Charlotte and Victor, this means that Victor causes people to drop their items, which I think is nice to be able to do, that Victor can have something that applies to him, since perks do not affect Victor and how he works. So, yeah, it's basically like it's Franklin's for Victor. In a nutshell. So decent perk, well worth running. Victor Soldier. A toy soldier Victor clung to and scared. Something about it evoked jealousy in Charlotte. If a survivor crushes Victor while he's idle, their aura is revealed for 6 seconds. So kind of here's the thing. Like, if you wanted to run this one, if the survivor crushes Victor while he's idle, they suffer for exposed. You would probably want to run this one with it, because if they crush Victor, you're going to get 6 seconds of aura info, and that's going to greatly increase the chance that you might be able to catch up with him and maybe be able to knock him down while they're exposed. So it gives you a little info, and then they're exposed. Nice combo there. Otherwise, not much else really there to do. There are better add-ons to run, but for that particular combo, not bad. Madeline's Scarf. A cloth Madeline wore shortly before her death. The twins kept it as a memento. Slightly increases Victor's speed. Now notice that this is a rare. This isn't an uncommon or a common, but this is a rare add-on. So slightly increases Victor's speed. If you stack that with Forest Stew moderately, he goes pretty speedy, and that helps covering more ground. Which is not bad. Like, that helps with your map pressure. It's kind of one of the things about she doesn't have they don't have bad map pressure, because Victor can get along pretty fast. Now, you're still going to be attacking one person at a time, but if you're chasing people off gens, you're going to get more value out of something like Ruin. Ruin only works if you work for it, and if you're chasing people off gens with Victor, and you're landing your pounces, so they're busy with you, you're going to get regression, and you're also going to keep someone busy off the map until you can go take care of them. Let's see. Rusted needle. A needle Madeline used to sew up her children's tattered clothes. Survivors who remove Victor suffer from the hemorrhage status effect until healed. This is kind of nice because it helps track, but the problem here is it helps Victor track. It doesn't really help Charlotte track a ton, but but now if you send Victor back out, they're still going to be hemorrhaging until they're healed, so there's going to be more blood drops for you to follow. If you're heading back out in that general area with Victor, it's going to make it a little easier for you to track them. It's not terribly hard to do, but you know, if you don't got anything better to run, that's not terrible. So it helps Victor find his prey. Sewer sludge, a disgusting sticky mixture that's covered with the déchets during an escape attempt through the city sewers, slightly increases the time it takes for a survivor to remove Victor. This is not good. You don't want to use this. Like really, like one of the early counters, and something that people still do to this day when you are using Charlotte and Victor. If you land your shot with Victor, the first thing that they do, a lot of people will, is they will just hold on to your power. And so they will leave Victor on their head for as long as possible. This used to be 60 seconds. A full minute you were robbed of your power if they did not take Victor off their head. And I don't see it as much anymore, but it's a smart play. Like if you have Charlotte, you know, chasing you, and and Victor is riding your head, or even if she's not chasing you, you can just comfortably leave Victor on your head for a little while. It's going to take you out of the game for 45 seconds until he drops off and then respawns with her, but that's 45 seconds where she does not have her power, where Victor is not running around the map terrorizing people, and in general it's kind of worth it. Like holding the killer's power hostage, while irritating to me, is a solid strategy for survivors against while they're playing Charlotte and Victor. So if you hold on to it, it helps. This increases the time it takes for a survivor to remove Victor. Now, if people are just trying to take off Victor the moment that Victor gets on their head, then this is going to help a little bit and might give you, you know, if you actually are close enough to be following up with Charlotte, which you aren't always, but sometimes. That might help a little bit. While they're busy trying to, you know, do the one thing, you know, they're a little bit distracted, and you can go over and whack them with Charlotte and profit. But otherwise, I would not. There are just better add-ons. Whether it's speed, whether it's undetectable, even the hemorrhage, you'd get more value out of than this. Stale biscuits, my favorite. A hard, unleavened biscuit that Madeline stole from a town's market. It wasn't much, but it was better than most meals. Slightly decreases the cooldown of pounce. This is not bad, but in a perfect world, you don't want to be missing a lot with Victor in the first place, because when you miss, you become vulnerable. And then the survivor can turn around if they have their wits about them, and then they can boot you, and then the chase is over. Like, you dissolve, and then you show back up at Charlotte, and then Victor, you know, becomes able to be used after the power bar fills up again. But there are times where you would get some decent, you know, use out of this, but it only slightly decreases the cooldown of pounce, and I do not believe there are any others to stack with that. So if you missed, you could retry sooner, which is not bad, but ideally you just want to practice till you get to the point where it just is a very natural thing to be able to follow the survivor, pounce the survivor, and profit. You know, like, once again, minimum 75% of the time. If you are missing all the time with Victor, you are going to have a very bad day, because every time that you miss, someone's going to kick you and send you back, and then you are somewhere else, nowhere close to that chase, and you are in Charlotte, and you are not, that chase is done. And basically you have to start over from scratch. So while this makes sense, of course, and it does with many other killers, if you miss with your power, you are going to pay for it. But I feel that in many ways, you pay much harder with Charlotte and Victor than you do with other killers. So this could be helpful, but most survivors who are on top of it are going to be turning around and most likely trying to kick you if you miss. So this cooldown it could be completely wasted. Plus, as of this patch, still until they change it, we don't even know like what slightly means. It could be 1%. It could be 2.5%, as far as like the speed up between when you can pounce again. So I wouldn't use it. Weighty rattle, a shoddily carved rattle that Victor cried over until his mother stole it for him. It's entirely too heavy to be trusted to a child. Survivors who remove Victor suffer from the broken status effect for 20 seconds. I mean, that's fine, but really nothing that's going to be game breaking or anything for you. 20 seconds of broken just means that they're not going to be healing. I mean, for 20 seconds. Most of the time, they're going to be running to someplace quieter. They'll wait for the broken to drop, and then they can, immediately heal. So this isn't really doing a ton. Maybe adding a little stall, maybe not. Honestly, once again, not really worth your time. Baby teeth. 2 teeth that Victor lost long ago. They're unusually sharp. Survivors who remove Victor suffer from the blindness status for 15 seconds. Blindness is not a bad status, but it's not overpowered or anything. And it's 15 seconds, which is it's not a ton. Maybe you're gonna get some value out of this if you don't have anything else better to run, but honestly, not the greatest thing. But statuses are statuses, and I guess. When you're starting out, beggars can't be choosers, so it could be worse. Honestly, I would like to see the blindness status a little longer, but it is yellow add-on. So, Bloody Black Hood, a hood from one of the men that hunted Charlotte. Soon he became the prey. Slightly decreases the time it takes Charlotte to be awoken from her dormant state. This is not bad. And especially the last couple times that I've played the twins, it feels like it takes a lot longer before you're able to switch. So I don't know, it used to be where you could switch back and forth, fairly often. It was much smoother, and now I feel like there's about a 3-second pause in between when you're actually able to switch over with Victor. Or to Victor or back to Charlotte. So slightly decreasing that is okay. Once again, if you don't have anything else better to run, this is not a bad one, because you're going to be switching back and forth a decent amount of the time, unless you're just missing with Victor and getting kicked back into oblivion. So Cat's Eye. An eyeball that belonged to a cat eaten by the starving Shades family. Victor hid it from his mother, using it as a toy. After fully charging Pounce, Victor roams silently. I guess you can charge up your Pounce and then run around until you find someone. This is maybe not bad. Honestly, if you don't hear Victor coming, it's going to be less likely the survivor is going to be prepped for it or is going to be running away from a gen. But you do, I believe, slow down a little bit with Victor. I mean, you certainly don't have the full speed you have access to when you don't have a full charged Pounce. But we don't have a super detailed as far as radius handy. But if someone doesn't know you're coming and they can't tell, you might have much better luck knocking them down. You're already tiny as it is, you get around pretty quickly, and you're small, you can hide behind stuff, so this can add to that. It's not a bad add-on, and it's not a bad add-on for a yellow at all. So honestly, if you're using it, that's fine. Ceremonial candelabrum. The candelabrum that Victor tipped over, causing his captors to burn, a symbol of his tenacity. Slightly increases the time needed for a survivor to crush Victor. Ideally, you don't want Victor being crushed at all. Unfortunately, it happens a decent amount of time. I guess that's fine, but let's go on Madeline's glove. Glove once owned by the twins' mother. During desperate times, it was held over Victor's mouth to keep him from making a peep. Moderately increases the radius of Victor's grunt when charging Pounce. I really don't know what the positive is to that, but we'll move on. And then we just have cat figurine displays the target location of a Pounce, kind of like the flannel with the nurse. It sort of gives you the distance if you need some help. Slightly increases the radius of Victor's grunt when charging Pounce, and moderately decreases the time for Victor to separate from Charlotte. That's not bad, I guess, but anytime you're saving time with Charlotte and Victor, that's not bad. That's actually not terrible. I don't think I've ever tried it out myself, but anytime you're saving some time, that's not bad. Toy Sword slightly decreases the time to charge a pound. This one is honestly not bad. It's just slightly. I mean, these are common. So they're not going to be game breaker or anything, but at least they don't have any meme ones where, like, if you like hit a tree with Victor, you get a blood point score for whatever, or something like that mini killers have. This is actually not bad, and if you can speed up the time it takes to charge pounce, that you're ready quicker. And in some chases, like, you know, especially if you're running around a survivor and you're chasing them around a loop with Victor, that can help a lot. So that kind of wraps up the add-ons, and so we are going to run in and try to give more of an in-depth overview, because there's a little bit to go through on Charlotte and Victor, how to play her, what things are good, what things are bad, and kind of what came out of their entrance into the game. So we'll be right back, and we will dive right in. See you soon. So, welcome back. Here we are with Charlotte and Victor in the Underground Complex. Did some recording, did a couple games of the twins, a little something to go on the background. We'll go over what they do and kind of where they fit. The two most prevalent things that people have used Charlotte and Victor for are 1, slugging, and 2, proxy camping. And it's weird, right? Like, it's what they're strong at. Because you can be in a couple places at the same time. You can put someone on a hook, and then there is a radius around a hooked survivor where you cannot actually use the switch. Like, you can't switch back in, and you can't drop them off until you can get over pallets, but you have to have the right angle. You also can get through windows, and this is me trying, right? No, I think I went all the way over. Hello, and now you kicked me. So now that chase is over, now I'm all the way back at the other end of the map with Charlotte, and I start back from zero. This is kind of the core issue with Charlotte and Victor, is that if you miss, if Victor gets kicked, you are hurting for certain, because you wasted all that time in a chase, and maybe you ran around and they dropped a pallet, and maybe you were doing whatever, but it took time to go traverse the map, and it took time to make that chase, and it took time to do all of those things, and yet you were unable to seal the deal. And we got her, but I'm still gonna get kicked. Here's another important part: even if you don't miss, even if you hit someone, you still enter that same state. If I were to change one thing about Charlotte and Victor, that would probably be it. Like, I think that's a little too punishing, that when you actually knock someone down with Victor, is that if someone is standing right beside you, they will kick Victor and you will be sent back. Not that you're not already going to switch into Charlotte to go pick up somebody off the ground, but if you are working on one of those things, like I said, if you are slugging people, and which Charlotte and Victor do very well, that can really just break your momentum, and Charlotte's somewhere else on the map, and then by the time you get there are many times those people are picked up, depending on what kind of healing build or healing items that their fellow survivors might be having with them. This is kind of the trade-off of having see, there we go. We actually successfully leaped over a pallet. You can do the same thing through windows. Takes a little practice, and you have to get back just far enough and have the appropriate angle. There's our killer instinct going off. So, I mean, we knew Nia was coming, but this was the way we were heading. We're hitting her to make her do her borrowed time, and then we are going to chase whoever. I don't know, are we going to go after her? No. Yeah, for some reason, it's not the most reliable thing, but once you get it down and get a feel for it, you can leap over pallets and leap through windows pretty easily. It's just that the opportunities aren't always there. People aren't always going to be just lining up and waiting for you to jump over a pallet at them. But, so like I said, the things that they do well is if you have people injured, Victor knocks them down very efficiently. once again, if you are hitting your shots, like she could have easily kicked me out there, and no, that wasn't going to happen. You know, you get a lot of collision issues and things like that, and there's a lot of corners, a lot of things, and this is what you'll do a lot of, and this is why it sometimes feels bad when Victor's aid will be kicked after successfully hitting someone or knocking someone down. Because after running around and trying to get the right angle and waiting for people to spin around and do their 360s or run you through loops with Victor, and then you finally get a hit on them and knock them down, and then someone comes over and crushes you, and then you're all the way back wherever, or you miss, you know, one too many times, and that survivor just kicks you and drops you down, and then you start over from zero. You're not on one side or the other. And there, we took care of that. So you're still able to do stuff. As you can see right now, I'm running kind of a sluggy build with Deerstalker and Knockout. You can also use Nurse's Calling is great to see people healing, but it doesn't work with Victor. So you only get use out of it like 50% of the time. But once again, it's a solid perk on them. Being able to go and catch up to people and then introduce them to Victor is fine. Sloppy is also decent too. People or killers basically that you want to make it harder for people to not be injured. Sloppy Butcher is a nice way to do that. I do that with Granny often, and because I want them to be injured. And the same thing kind of holds true with Charlotte and Victor. I would probably drop Knockout and put Sloppy Butcher on, because it's making it harder for them to actually be healed, and gives you a better chance of catching them while they're still injured, and then knock them down and move on. If you have multiple people injured, that's party time for Victor. If you can keep one person on the ground at all times with Victor, you're gonna do pretty well. Because people are going to constantly have to go pick that person up. That means that one person is not doing a gen. That means that two people are not doing a gen, and the other two people might not be doing anything in particular either. So what it does is it causes a lot of stall when people are having to pick up people who are constantly being slugged. It's also fairly not terribly hard to slug a team out if everybody is injured, or even if 3 people are injured and Victor knocks down a couple, and then you're able to knock down somebody else with Charlotte, and then you've got one survivor running around hopefully trying to pick people up. You run Deerstalker, you can see where people are on the ground, and it helps a lot. The other strategy that many people run with Charlotte and Victor, and I don't know if it's terribly successful anymore, and I hope it's not, but basically you would detach, and then you would park Victor with just outside of that radius where you actually can park Victor, outside of the hook, and then you would run around to Charlotte, and you would wait until you get the killer instinct notification, and then you would go rush the hook because you knew someone was going in for the save. Now you could do that with Victor, which is probably the easiest one, but if they see you, they will kick you. So hiding him in a corner around somewhere, or in a bush, or wherever, because he's kind of small, you can tuck him into spaces, and you can get that notification that someone's going to the hook, and then you can immediately switch to Victor, which now seems to have a bit of a pause to it, but nonetheless. And then use that to kind of proxy camp the hook, and as they are going in for the save, you can stick a Victor on them. And once again, so either you're camping or you're slugging, and that's kind of my issue with Charlotte and Victor, is they really kind of, if you try to play Charlotte and Victor like a normal killer, like I'm going to hit someone once, I'm going to send Victor off at them to knock them down. It takes a lot of time. Like the power itself doesn't lend to, it's not like a 1-2 punch. What it does do is it does give you a lot of mobility, around the map, but you also have there are downsides to it. Obviously, you can be kicked and sent back to Charlotte, and basically ending the chase immediately. Yeah, you can't close hatches. You can't break pallets. You can't do any of those things that are very helpful. You can, and this is something that they added shortly after release, because the meta very, very quickly became, if Victor is coming after you, just hop into a locker, because you couldn't do anything about it. I was very, very impressed with how behavior. It didn't take too long, honestly. Like I think most people remember it after their release. It was changed, or maybe they changed it out of the PTR. I don't remember, but it was very quickly remedied, and they added a whole other thing into the game where if someone runs into a locker, Victor can open lockers. And so you can check those lockers. If someone's in there for, I believe it's either 8 or 10 seconds, Victor will hold that locker shut, giving you a pretty decent amount of time to actually go in with Charlotte and pull them out of that locker. That was a nice move on his part. Just took off the other way instead of playing the loop. But you can also see there where Killer Instinct was handy. Like people were running by, and since Victor was parked, I could see them coming. I could see them going. I could also see the person on the ground. So Killer Instinct gives good info, and that can be very helpful too. So it, like, in a nutshell, like if basically Charlotte and Victor are decent. They are not top tier. They're not the worst killers in the game, but it does take a lot of getting used to, and you have to really get good at hitting people with Victor, and it's not as easy as it sounds. The point of view that you have with Victor, since you're so low to ground, is a little disorientating. And much like good survivors will do even to a killer, if they get up in your face, you start to lose kind of track of them. You know, if they start spinning around you, it becomes very hard to do so. So getting them and getting good at a very short distance and launching yourself at them with a decent amount of accuracy is what you want to practice on if you want to play Charlotte and Victor. Like, that is the key to playing this killer well and being successful. If you are not hitting people on a regular basis with Victor and you are just getting kicked and sent back to Charlotte, you are not going to like it. There, I completely overshot him. Not even sure how I did that. He hadn't even dropped the pallet yet, but it is whatever. See, like, you're holding down the pounce, you got to charge it before you're able to pounce. There we go. And so now we've landed, and now we're giving him a bad time, and that's pretty much the game right there. Like, he's busy trying to get Victor off. That person is still on the ground, and that should be it. There is our 4K. It involved some slugging, not a ton, but enough to keep them busy, keep them from doing things that I don't want them to be doing. And really, I think it's probably the most effective way to play Charlotte and Victor. Knock people down, keep people injured, do not let them breathe, do not let them fix gens. Anytime, if you ever see me stream, I'm not a giant advocate of slugging, but anytime you can keep one person on a hook and one person on the ground, you are way ahead of the game. And often you can do that with Charlotte and Victor, and then if you press it more, you can do that as well. Like, if you want to just keep everybody injured and knock everybody on the ground and then go around, pick them up with Deerstalker, you can do that too. But the trick here is you do not score well. Like, whereas if you play a solid game of Trapper or Huntress or whoever, you know, you're going to average, like, you know, if you get a 4K, you're going to get like 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12 hooks. You're going to get very good blood points. You're going to score well. You're going to pip or double pip. With Charlotte and Victor, what tends to happen is you get far less hooks if you're slugging all the time, because there's not necessarily somebody to pick them up off the hook. And there are many games where I have won convincingly, but only gotten like 6 or 7 hooks and barely black pipped. I might have 4K'd, or the last person might have gotten the hatch, but I didn't pip. So I won, but I didn't win because of the nature of how they play. And if you play them as a very sluggy killer, it's a problem. Like, it's a problem score-wise. And it's kind of something that you have to mentally decide to do if you're playing Charlotte and Victor in that manner. And the other way, where you're hiding Victor in a corner by Hook Survivor and doing the proxy camping thing, I mean, I think that's okay too, but that it feels kind of scummy. Plus, you can still unhook someone even if you have Victor on your head, I believe. I don't remember if that's how it came out on release, or if that is how it ended up being. Let's see if we've got a little bit more gameplay to go over. Yeah, we do. I know I played 2. But in general, I like Charlotte and Victor. I like the idea of them. I kind of like what they do, but it also is a very, very punishing killer to play if you are not getting Victor on people's heads. Very, very punishing, because if you miss and they kick you, you start over from scratch. You find someone else. You launch Victor back out there and you send him back out in the map, and you miss a couple shots and that you could have gotten because they've got really good movement. They spin really well. It's not their first day in the game. I think I got back-to-back games at the Underground Complex, which was hilarious. But it's very, very punishing. Like, all of a sudden you were in the heat of a chase, and now you're not. Like, you're halfway across the map somewhere else. Now you've got to go find and start another chase and start all over. And whether you decide to do that with Charlotte or with Victor, like, that's up to you. But once again, like, that's a huge amount of time wasted. So really, my advice with Charlotte and Victor is I think they're decent. They're not top tier by any means, because their kit wastes a lot of time, but they also are probably one of the most effective sluggers in the game. And once again, that's going to require you to be good with your shots. Like, you've got to land those. You can't let people kick Victor, because if I would have missed there, like, I would have been all the way over here, and maybe I could have run over there, and maybe she would have still been there, and maybe she would have still been working on a gen, but there's a good chance that she wouldn't have been. And now I've wasted like twice as much time because I'm looking for someone that probably still wasn't even there. Here I'm injuring up more people. That's beautiful. If I can walk by with Charlotte and I can injure them, that means that they are Victor food. Right? Like, I can shoot Victor out there at the time, and we can make sure that hopefully we get that person down, follow up with Deerstalker, and get him picked up off the ground. Deerstalker is a very solid perk on her. I'm using Rune Undying because I don't think I have anything else for stall. Not a big fan of the combo, but really, it is what it is. Like, I mean, if you're... there, we knocked her down. So now we've got one on a hook and one on the ground. This is a good place to be. See, there's that pause that I'm talking about. Like, I'm not sure if that had to do because I actually got it down with him, but you used to be able to switch back and forth a little quicker. It feels like almost a 3-second wait in between switching between the two. So now we're going to run around and try to find some more people. All of a sudden we've got one injured, the other one got unhooked. We're going to run on with Victor and see if we can just keep doing this. That's kind of the key, is like, it's really, you're running and finding people with Victor. There's my bloodstains, and then I'm going to find somebody somewhere and do that. There we go. And it doesn't feel super satisfying when you put Victor on someone's head, but they are getting injured, and it is taking them off an objective, and that's always good. So you're wasting time. You're going to get benefit out of your ruin. You're going to get benefit out of many of those things. And for some reason she decided just to stay there, but that's the key. That's if you get good with Victor and do not miss a lot of your shots, you're going to have success with Charlotte and Victor. Is that going to carry you to the highest reaches of the game? No, but once again, if you enjoy the killer play the killer, because this was actually something where they came up with an interesting idea, and they didn't implement it terribly poorly, and I also don't think that they made it too overpoweredly broken. And that's sort of the trick there. Like the cooldowns and you know, the kind of sluggishness and clunkiness that is inherent to this killer, I think is almost needed. I would like it a little smoother, but the reality is, if you could just bebop back and forth between them all the time, and Victor could never be stomped or killed, like the killer would be kind of broken. You wouldn't be able to stop Victor, and that would not be great for you. You can see here where, you know, a little cooldown on the pounce would not be a bad, you know, being able to use it faster. Because a lot of times you can get run around while you're just charging up the pounce. But if you stick to it and you have good aim and a little bit of patience, don't wait all day, but make sure you keep launching Victor at people's heads until you get good at it, and then you're going to have a lot of success with Charlotte and Victor. But that's really about it. She's a very, very strong slugging killer if you can hit your shots. You can be sneaky deaky and you know, be a camping killer, but I don't find that really enjoying, and that's enjoyable. And that's sort of the trick with this killer, is that the two playstyles that she is the best at, neither one of them are super fun for survivors. Like, if you're just getting slugged out all game by Charlotte and Victor, you know, that's not fun. I mean, I'm not as worried about other people's fun as I used to be, but it's still important. You know, like, if I am just going to be, and see there, like, I had someone that I could have picked up, but someone was able to get there before I even did. Not that I didn't, you know, monkey around a little bit, but I did have them in Deerstalker. Someone was able to come pick them up before I was able to do anything about it. And that's the other thing. You're not at the spot when you can't hook someone with Victor, right? You can't do any of those things. But if you're constantly knocking people down and constantly bringing people off objectives to pick their other survivors up off the ground or off of hooks, like, that's pure stall. And if you are a ruin, you know, lover, I mean, that's a decent thing. Like, you're pulling people off objectives, and you're going to get good regression while people are busy getting people off the ground and off of hooks. So you can play this killer. Like, there's I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with this killer, and it can be very, very punishing if you are unable to hit and line up your shots with Victor. But otherwise, it can be a decently fun killer, and it was a neat idea. And I think that they implemented it fairly decently for something that was so different than most other killers. Like, not to say that, you know, the Demogorgon doesn't have a pounce, but it's still different. Like, you know, you're not carrying around someone on your back that's getting shot around the map, or inside your belly. And let Victor go do your dirty work for you, and then Charlotte does the heavy lifting. So enjoy this killer. Get into it and play this killer a little bit. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I think you can have a lot of fun with it, but you really kind of have to lean to one of those two play styles. I would personally suggest trying to be a bit slug heavy and keep people busy with picking people off the ground. The camping one is it's kind of annoying, and it doesn't necessarily work as well, although you are still, you know, chaining injures, and that's a good thing to do. So have some fun with it, do some things. That was a pretty short match, but we also, I think we had one person DC, and that was about it, so it made it pretty easy for me to get in there. But once again, the DC helped that, but we didn't get exactly a ton of hooks. We had one DC, and then some people were one hook, some people were two hooked, and so you're missing out on some stuff there, and that's sort of, it's kind of thing you have to balance with them. But honestly, if you enjoy this killer, play this killer. I'm going to try to play more of her, because I think that she does have a fun factor. Just make sure that you know are kind to yourself, because it can be very frustrating if you're missing shots and Victor is getting constantly kicked, and then you're not doing as well as you would like to. But practice makes perfect in this game, and so definitely give it a go. Get out there and play with the twins. But thanks for watching, thanks for sticking with us, and much love from the old man.